Rise and Shine Rwanda, it's Tuesday the 28th of April. Coming up on today's Rise and Shine Rwanda. With the humanitarian crisis looming in Burundi, is Rwanda ready for the refugees influx? We visit a company that is the core of e-payment services in today's Tech Tuesday. And we unveil the brilliant winner of the pageant with a twist. Good morning, it's just after 7 o'clock in the morning and you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja. Makeda is out today and over the next hour we'll bring you all the latest news. We'll hold it down for her, all the business news, the business, the sports headlines from here in Rwanda and around the world. And the Rise and Shine beautiful team is here with me. Fidelis, what do you have in the world of the money?
Well, the money is there. You talk about an issue that most of the people have been facing. When you're going to withdraw your money, what are you using? So we're trying to get to a cashless economy, but how are we going to do that? So e-payment services have it all for you in business.
You got it all.
E-payment, man.
Okay, Arnold Sports, what do you got for us?
It's the big boxing week, so I start with some of the previews we had over the weekend. Vladimir Klitschko taking on Jevings, the latest.
Waiting.
From that, we'll dig a little bit into the Floyd Mayweather situation.
I'm waiting for that too.
Floyd Mayweather, who's he? And the latest in the ever-continuing Ferrafa saga.
Right, that's a never-ending one. Okay, well, all that and more still to come, but first, Rise and Shine story of the day. Over the weekend, tensions flared in Burundi's capital, Bujumbura, a direct consequence to Conseil national pour la défense de la démocratie, Force pour la défense de la démocratie, CNDD-FDD, nominating incumbent President Pierre Nkurunziza to run for a highly disputed third term. Over the past few weeks, refugees had been crossing the Rwandan border, fearing for the worst, and after the weekend's clashes, about 20,000 people have now crossed the border. Is Rwanda ready for an eventual humanitarian crisis? Take a look. Horns heard throughout downtown Bujumbura to express their displeasure with the turn of events. This was last weekend as le Conseil national pour la défense de la démocratie et Force pour la défense de la démocratie, CNDD-FDD, had just announced what everybody expected, the nomination of Burundian incumbent President Pierre Nkurunziza to run for a third term. The constitution only allows 2 terms of 5 years each. Since then, protests in the capital streets, leading to clashes with the national police, has added to the already existing flow of Burundians leaving their country to seek refuge here in Rwanda.
Ntabwo wabona igihe cyo kwirirwa ukora idosiye ya buri muntu ngo mubaze wahunze iki, wahunze ryari, wanyuze hehe, kuko akenshi iyo baje mu kivunge aho banyura haba hagaragara, ibyo bavuga akenshi biba ari bimwe. Uriya muntu murebye mu maso, ndebye uko baje bose, ndabona ko bari abantu barahunze, ni impunzi, nicyo statut de réfugié prima facie ivuga. Ariko nk'uko itegeko ry'impunzi ribiteganya mu Rwanda, ntibikuraho yuko hari igihe bishobora kuba ngombwa yuko ku muntu nk'uriya uvuga ute ariko uriya muntu ko twavuze ngo ni impunzi buriya nibyo. Noneho rero bikaba ngombwa yuko nk'umuntu yahamagarwa akabazwa ibibazo byihariye kugira ngo bamenye kuko ari impunzi.
Now, were we ready for the influx, and has the Rwandan government gotten enough help in dealing with the situation?
Habanje kuba ikibazo gatoya cyo kubona reception centers. Kwa twateganyije hari hegereye i Burundi, kandi biteganyijwe yuko udashobora gukora inkambi hafi y'igihugu impunzi ziba zivuyemo. Niyo mpamvu hajemo akantu gatoya ko gutegereza kugira ngo tubajyane Mahama, ariko na Mahama nayo yari iteganyijwe ari muri pipeline kuko twateganyaga yuko ni Burundi hashobora guturuka ikibazo naho twari twarahiteguye muri contingency plan.
With other protests taking places in Bujumbura and more refugees expected to cross the border in the days to come, how equipped and prepared are we for an eventual humanitarian crisis?
Mu byo twiteguye kwakira abantu bashobora no kugera mu 50,000, ariko nk'uko twakunze kubivuga ntabwo igihugu cyacu uko kingana ntabwo twiteguye kuba twakwakira igihugu mu kindi ngo tuvuge ngo abarundi bose basohotse bose baje mu Rwanda. Turi mu nama bamwe mu miryango y'abibumbye ya Loni ikorera hano mu Rwanda kugira ngo twitegurire hamwe nabo tubabwire tuti amahanga yose agomba kwitegura kuba yagira icyo akora mu gihe cyose ubushobozi igihugu kigaragaza burangiye. None abo bantu bakaba bagira ahandi bajyanwa, wenda u Rwanda tukaba twatanga umuhanda inzira banyuramo, ariko ntitwe twakwiyemeza ngo abarundi bose baramutse bahunze twabakira hano mu Rwanda.
More developments to come. Regis Sheja, Rise and Shine Rwanda. All right, Arnold, it's really bad what's happening in our neighboring country. We were talking about it yesterday in our hot topics. Now, when I was speaking with the minister, she clearly established that Rwanda can only welcome about 50,000 refugees. After that, the international community is gonna have to be involved, and maybe Rwanda can become a corridor for those refugees, but they have to go elsewhere. What do you think is gonna happen?
I think the numbers are going to continue to swell unless the situation in Bujumbura calms down or in Burundi. 50,000 is it's a very large number, but I think the United High Commission for Refugees is going to step into the situation. There have been calls for that. I think it's also high time what we've been calling the East African Standby Force to do its work, its mandate, and quell the situation. Fortunately, yesterday, the Burundian army started marching with the protesters. Okay, not literally marching with them, but protecting the protesters from the youth militia group in Burundi and arresting some members of that youth militia group. The questions we're asking ourselves were, is the military going to go up against the police in Burundi? But it doesn't seem so. The military is protecting the civilians who you could see not armed, not firing at the Burundian police.
They're protesting in peace.
They are very peaceful protests, and the Burundian police and the youth militia are tear gassing these people, which is very unfortunate. But you feel there are so many incidences that we can have here. A coup d'etat is very possible if it happens, because usually when the military comes in to take charge, we saw that with the Arab Spring, with what happened in Egypt. When the military turns on you, we saw that same thing when it happened in South America a few years back, in Venezuela.
Under Hugo Chavez.
Under Hugo Chavez. When the military turns against the government or aligns with the protesters, it becomes a very hard situation to call. And before that, we didn't know the position of the military in all this, being that the Minister of Defense is anti-third term in Burundi, while the Chief of Defense Forces, the head of the army, is pro-third term. So we didn't know whether the military stand. The military still maintains a very neutral position in this, and I think it will be the perfect catalyst for what's going to happen next in Burundi.
Now, in Rwanda in 1994, when after the genocide, and even during the genocide, we had a lot of refugees flee towards Goma and Bukavu. Now, in this case, we can see it coming. Back then, it was like really a sudden move. Now, with the demonstrations happening in Bujumbura, with the clashes with the police, and well, the army on one side, the police on the other side, do you think there's a possibility we can get close to that 50,000 number? Because we don't know what's going to happen with the president, if he's going to stay, if he's going to go, if he's going to get pressured. What do you think is going to happen humanitarian-wise?
If you go by the statistics we have, the numbers, the way they are coming in, I think by the end of this week we may even have 40,000 people. So meaning it's so easy for us to get to the 50,000 numbers. But I think the East African heads are going to call a quick summit. Currently our president is in the United States of America attending a summit. The Ugandan president is in Somalia, and the Tanzanian president, I have no knowledge of where he is. But I think it's high time the East African community sat. Of course, these countries don't want to interfere with Burundi's sovereignty as a sovereign state, and similar situation to what happened to South Sudan. They don't want to interfere in the politics of the country because Burundians have every right to make their own way, create their own path.
But Arnold, you're talking about the East African community, and rightfully so, because Burundi is part of it. But now, how about the African Union and then the international community in general? Because if you think about it, I think I tweeted yesterday or the day before that if this was a petroleum economic driven country, it would be different.
Yeah, we don't have to look very far. When South Sudan such tensions were, we had economic sanctions very soon. When we had those South Sudan clashes a few years back between the two rival tribes of the Nubians and the Dinkas. There were economic sanctions from the likes of the United States, the likes of Britain, because South Sudan is an oil source. It's an oil stronghold. Burundi doesn't have the same luxury. It doesn't have it doesn't have gas, petroleum, or any of these things, and that's why I think international community they don't have so much interest in Burundi. So that's why I think the East African community is better to deal with this. We shouldn't let this go on to what we had in our country in 1994. And I think it may not necessarily be a genocide, but people are dying. It's catastrophic. It's disaster, and it's all because of political power. I talked about a coup d'etat earlier. Burundi that's what it has had in its transition. But when you look at the Arusha Accord that was signed in 2000 that brought the incumbent into power, somehow you may think, you look at the other side of the coin.
Certain things are not clear.
Yeah, there are so many things that were not clear about that Arusha Accord. One being that when he was elected for his first term, he wasn't chosen by the people. He was chosen by his party, which held the majority in the parliament. Yeah, meaning he was elected by the parliament, which is kind of similar to what the British do. It comes to his second term, which was in about 2012-2013, when he got re-elected for his second term, which was, he got 93%. But remember, majority of the opposition boycotted the elections at that time. This time, he feels he has the right. I think the right decision here should have been this, to go into a referendum for Burundians, maybe to change that constitution, to decide on if they want to change the term limits, and maybe re-elect him for a third term, but not force it upon them.
Well, hopefully this doesn't go on. Hopefully it gets resolved. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Regis.
You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. We'll be right back.
Connect to Lusaka 3 times a week starting 27th March. Enjoy comfort and safety at affordable fares to 17 other destinations across Africa and the Middle East.
Fly our dream to the heart of Africa.
You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Business news now. Fidelis Karangwa has the details.
Business stories making headlines today. The Ministry of the East African Community held the third private sector breakfast meeting to review the challenges that business people face when using the Central Corridor to and from Dar es Salaam. The meeting, which brought together businessmen and women from the different sectors including transport, logistics, mining and manufacturing among others, was aimed at accelerating the removal of non-tariff barriers along the Central Corridor. Officials said that this initiative would impact transport costs and competitiveness, thus contributing to the reduction of costs of doing business in Rwanda. The International Monetary Fund has expressed concerns about Rwanda's overhead costs during its visit to review the country's progress. Officials said although Rwanda has been described as the most competitive country in the region, there is need for further improvements if the country is to open up for private investments. With more investments being put into human resources and labor force to reduce the labor costs, it is expected that this will bring competitiveness in Rwanda to a higher level, and more investment can also be expected. Now, as Rwanda tries to achieve a cashless economy by 2020, many businesses and companies start up every day to encourage the use of e-payment services in the country. Today, we look into one such company that has been running the electronic payment system in Rwanda. Take a look. Using electronic payment systems is still quite a new trend in Rwanda, as it has only been a couple of years since the Rwandan community understood the need to use banking services. Despite this, however, some people are slowly changing their payment habits and using e-payment services more often.
I've been a traveler, basically. I've lived in various countries, Tanzania, Rwanda, and most of the time, yes, I have a debit card, and it makes my life very easy in that it's supposed to be convenient. I shouldn't be queuing if I got a card. So I get to use it either on the ATM, I use it when I go shopping, all the supermarkets that are around that actually have POSs, and also I get to use it online for those particular products that I can't be able to get locally, yeah, and paying online for my flight, yeah.
With telecommunication companies, banks, and even independent companies all incorporating e-payment services into their regular services, we talked to officials from R-Switch to find out what their role has been in this process.
R-Switch is the national switch. It's the national e-payments company. So basically, we produce and manage ATM debit cards. We also do ATM maintenance, and we also monitor 24/7 all the ATMs for all our bank clients. Yes, so basically we do all those services for all the local banks, BPR, Koja Bank, Zigama, UOB, GT Bank, BRD, and actually we also partner with other third-party banks like EcoBank, Crane Bank, the new Crane Bank that's coming up, and also Equity Bank on POS acceptance, and then also KCB and also BK. Yes.
Although various campaigns are being put in place to sensitize the Rwandan community to use e-payment services, are they actually being successful?
Basically, I would say yes, the increment is actually there. Like, people are actually have come to know that the importance of using an ATM debit card, yeah? So basically, it's something that has been gradual. 2012, we had a particular number of cards, over 350,000 cards. To date, we actually have much more than 400,000 cards. So people are actually getting more aware, more conversant with this ATM debit card. And then with time, I think it will pick up. Yes.
Well, there you have it. It's safe to say that soon all Rwandans will be hooked on this electronic payment system trend that will put our economy into the big league. Kangwa Fidelis, Rise and Shine Rwanda. And joining us now in studio is David Karuletwa, the COO of R-Switch. Welcome, David, to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So now we know originally R-Switch was Simtel. What has the change been like for you people who are actually at R-Switch? What has the change been like? Has it been an improvement? Just tell us about it.
Well, speaking on my behalf, I've been there now close to 2 years, actually 2 years this May. And the company has gone through a huge metamorphosis over the last 2 years, formerly owned by ADC, African Development Corporation. And now we've just been acquired, it's now a year old actually, come May 30th, that Millicom, a world-class multinational corporation listed on many stock exchanges, has come to Africa, has come to Rwanda to actually partake into the e-payment system. You do know that our sister company is Tigo. I think everybody does know that, but we are an integral part of the central switch. We're autonomous, and we act as a hub and spoke model to offer services that are interoperable on e-payments. So on ATMs, on POSs, and on e-commerce, we propagate every scheme, and we do the clearing and settlement on behalf of the central bank. So we're trying to partner with as many providers, financial service providers, to ensure that it's seamless. And what does that do for the economy? It sucks the cash out of the economy, liquidating the banks, and it actually allows better lending through lower interest rates.
Yeah. Now, speaking of ATMs and POSs, now first of all, these are clearly new things that not many people in Rwanda are used to. And I have to say, of recent, maybe it's just me, but my experience has not been the best with ATMs, where you get there and maybe they're not working or the connections are really bad, and there's always all these issues that come up all the time. How has that affected your company and how you run business?
Well, I must say that the ISPs, the internet service providers, have done a tremendous job over the last 5 years. We have huge uptake of IT services. That's data on your phone, on your laptop, and what actually runs that is the fiber. We are heavily dependent on the fiber. We're happy to say that the country has invested heavily through the backbone. The penetration is border to border and it's seamless. We're going to take advantage of that change. We also have what's called a WiMAX Wibro service, which is a secondary failover to make sure that the uptime. And I think that was the main issue before, is that we had lower uptimes. And now we can say that we've been given everything to actually propagate higher uptimes. We're partnering with our stakeholders, the banks and the MNOs, to ensure that their infrastructure that we partner to upkeep is always up and running, because it's a customer's money at the end of the day, and they need to be conveniently
You need to be able to
accessing
access it, yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Perfect. And now, speaking of other issues, we've had a lot of complaints lately of cyber theft, which is actually a big deal, and even Rwanda itself has been, I saw it in the news, is doing a lot to try and take control of this situation. But what are your technologies up to date to deal with this issue? What are you doing as R-Switch to control this situation?
Absolutely. I think security is based on the weakest link, and what we've tried to do is partner with all stakeholders to first ensure that that is top of the agenda. We're in a system and a sector that is dependent on trust and security. What R-Switch did was, for the first time ever in Rwanda, we're the first entity to be certified under what's called the PCI DSS. It's a payment card industry data security standard. And the PCI Council is made out of international schemes such as Visa, MasterCard, UnionPay, American Express, JCB, and Diners Club. These are, they set the tone for card industry and in the e-payment sector. So we were certified as of last year, September. It's an annual certification, so you don't only get there, but you have to stay there. So we ensure that we, all the data, all the information that we process is managed securely, and it is not only certified by a small company here and there, it's an accredited firm that actually comes and does an audit. So we want to make sure that we're top of the line. We're not just taking it for granted. So that's number one. Number two is that R-Switch on its own, with Millicom, its company, is investing over $4 or $5 million into what we call fixing the basics. And this is basically revamping the whole infrastructure within our prime centers and our disaster recovery centers, working with stakeholders to ensure that AML, CFT, that's anti-money laundering and counter-financing terrorism, is abstained. We're putting in a brand new card management system that has just been deployed and has tested with the banks. And that is basically supposed to ensure that all your money is kept safely.
So you can feel safe.
Absolutely.
Our money is going to be fine.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Now I know you recently, or rather not maybe recently, there's a smart cash campaign that's going on, and you're basically putting these cards into the system and getting people to start using them.
Absolutely.
But how competitive is your smart cash card going to be compared to the Visa card that all people are used to at the moment?
Here's what we're doing. We're not choosing, we're letting the market choose. Okay. And I think the market always comes up with the right answer. What we do is we facilitate all brands. Smart Cash is the local domestic scheme. So we write the rules and, of the product. It's a proprietary product. And what that does is allow you to use EMV technology, which is Europay, MasterCard, Visa technology. So we're not eroding any technology away from it. We're just saying, use the same technology, but go where you want to go. Okay. You can go through Smart Cash based on the pricing that's there. You can go through Visa, you can go through MasterCard, you can go through UnionPay. Just as an example to show how central and autonomous we are actually going to be certified for all four. So Smart Cash is our own. We've just recently been certified by UnionPay. and Visa and MasterCard are on the way to be certified this year. We have a B2B2C relationship with the customer. So our direct clients are the banks and the MNOs. We try to facilitate what they are selling. So they are direct partners. We listen to them keenly, and we partner with them to actually deliver that to the end user. The purpose of having a switch is to reduce the cost to one entity, thereby giving a better price for value to the end user.
So basically, you're just providing more options for the locals.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Davey, for coming to the show.
Thanks for having me.
Well, you're up to date today's business headlines. Sports news coming up next in just a minute to Ono Quizera.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Time now for your sports news. I'm Old Quizera. Starting with local football, just 9 months after Rwanda was banned from the 2015 Africa Cup of Nations group stage qualifiers for fielding an ineligible player, the Rwanda Football Federation, FERAFA, yet finds itself in a spot of bother with 8 players ineligible to feature for the under-23 national team. According to the FERAFA president, Vincent de Gaule Zamwita, the local football body contacted the Confederation of African Football, CAF, about the players' eligibility because the dates of birth on their service passports were not the same as those that were given by their respective clubs to the continental body. The affected players include first choice goalkeeper Olivier Kwizera and right back Michael Rushesha Ngoga, Faustino Senjimana, Havru Guiro, defensive midfielder Robert Ndatimana, Andrew Butera, and Jihad Bizimana. Onto cricket, the Gale Storm was out in full force in the IPL T20 Champions League tournament to lead the Royal Challengers Bangalore to their 3rd win of the season. A great bowling performance from Varun Arun and the returning Michelle Stark limited the Delhi Daredevils to only 89 runs, with the team from Bangalore needing 90 runs. Henry Gale hit 62 runs off 40 balls to lead the Royal Challengers attack, with the captain Virat Kohli adding 32 runs for a 10-wicket win. With the world's attention turned onto boxing, Vladimir Klitschko has confirmed that Tyson Fury will be his next opponent, and the unified heavyweight champion is ready to travel to England to defend his belts. The IBF, WBA, and WBO king ended his 7-year American hiatus by clearly outpointing Brian Jennings at Madison Square Garden, but it was not the dazzling New York display he had promised on his stateside return. And although 7 years and 12 fights have passed since then for Klitschko, it was a case of same ring, same story. The watching Fury, who's a mandatory challenger to the champion's WBO belt and in line for a summer showdown, will have been encouraged by the performance.
All right, Arnold, so it feels like it's a never-ending story here. It feels like every week we're covering FERAFA, and it's never in, I thought with the Sekafa coming here, and then we're hosting China in 2016, I thought certain issues were resolved. I was wrong, apparently.
I think it's that old saying of, doing the same thing and expecting different results. We've had the incumbent administration in for a long time. They're doing the same things, and we expect different results. There's a lot of conflict of interest within FERAFA. One will start from the people responsible for such situations. That will be the technical director and the team manager. The technical director, the team manager of the current Amavubi team is the same as he's the head of the Referees Association. Now, yesterday, me and Romario were talking about that situation. There's no way you are going to have a person who heads a Referees Association to be head of,
It can be objective.
Yeah, there's no objectivity. He's not the only person capable of doing that. Now, when you look at the technical committee of the team, the people who are seated on the bench, you have the FERAFA spokesperson as one of the technical committee on the bench.
Unbelievable.
He's part of the coaching team for the national team. Then you also saw him act as a doctor during the game.
Right.
So FERAFA wants to take a lot of shortcuts, but we don't have time for shortcuts. And whenever you take shortcuts, the results never end well. We have players lying about age. That's very clear. Why can't we build structures from the ground? Have the youngsters, give the youngsters a chance. When a player lies about his age, a player is 28. The player that came on as a substitute for the Rwanda national team, the left back, against Somalia, if his real age is below 25 years old, I put my life on the line, because I have very strong evidence that this guy is 27 years old. But they're lying about his passport age, you know. He's going to play for the under-23 national team, play for it up to, let's say, when he's about 4 years, you know, because currently they say he's about 19 years old, you know. He's going to play for that team for a grace period of another 3 years. He won't be good enough for the senior team after that. The under-23 team should be a developmental side. And then we go again. Don't we have a big field of players to choose from? We don't have depth. Because if you have the same senior players as the junior team players, then there's a problem. You know, and that's something that you don't blame John McKinstry on. It's something that you blame the football administration on.
He was in place when he got here.
Because you don't feel he calls most of, because he is told, you know, he doesn't know about most of these players' background. So he will ask, how old is Olivier Kwizera? They will tell him, Olivier Kwizera is 21. Is Olivier Kwizera really 21 years old? Yeah? Was he born in 93?
We need a debate on this. We need to sit here, I don't know, with Romario and I don't know who else from Ferafa, but this is really bad. Let's move on to boxing, Vladimir Klitschko. I mean, you and I know when the heavyweights were true heavyweights, and then that was the main attraction when it comes to boxing. It was IBF, WBC, WBA. What happened to the heavyweight?
Heavyweight became very boring, I think, after the likes of David Hay left the class. David Hay was a big talk. I tried to, but he was not a natural heavyweight, being that he had moved from the lower division to come to the heavyweight rank. It's men like who would be natural heavyweights. But Vladimir Klitschko, will never see the Klitschko brothers take on each other. They are the two best heavyweight fighters. But something notable in that fight of Vladimir versus Brian Jennings in the States, you felt Klitschko is slowing down, and that's an advantage Tyson Fury should have noted. Tyson Fury is one of the big contenders from Britain. He also needs to take on another big man in Anthony Joshua, who we've talked about somewhere on the show. He's being a revelation in heavyweight boxing. Heavyweight boxing doesn't attract as much money as it used to, I think, because the Russians are kind of laid back. They won't talk as much. They will do the business, but they're not hype.
I remember Lennox Lewis and Mike Tyson, when they will fight, or Evander Holyfield, they will fight the Klitschko brothers. That was the competition.
Yeah, and they will beat them so bad. Yeah, but there were rumors about Lennox Lewis returning to the rings to take on one of the Klitschko brothers.
That's when you know it's bad. When he has to come back, I mean, come on.
Yeah, but Tyson Fury, I think, will be a great challenger, especially if the fight is to be held in Britain, where he has home advantage. Right. The Brits are known for their being big talkers, and he can go on to bring a challenge. I don't think he will beat Vladimir Klitschko. Klitschko wanted to go for the kill against Brian Jennings, but he couldn't, and again, that talks about so much about his style. We saw it in his previous fight against the Polish Usmarov, and you felt he has slowed down a little bit, but this weekend, there's no slowing down.
This is a category that clearly has taken the reins when it comes to boxing. This is where all the glitz and the glam is going to. This is where the celebrities are going to be at. May 2nd, Saturday, Manny Pacquiao versus Floyd Mayweather, the money team. We're like 4 days removed now. Where do you think this is going to lean towards?
I can't give a very objective answer to that because, but I think it's going to be Floyd Mayweather comes in as the favorite. He has never lost. Very clean record, 47 fights, no loss. But I've never seen Floyd Mayweather scared of a fighter as he is scared of Manny Pacquiao.
Has 10 more fights than Floyd Mayweather, 10 more knockouts than Floyd Mayweather. I mean, shouldn't that be scary?
It's very scary, but then again, when you lose as a boxer, it will always be in the back of your mind.
He's lost 5 times.
And he is lost 5 times. He has that knockout against Juan Manuel Marquez. Many say, I'm one of the people who will say he was bored at that time.
Right.
He wanted Floyd Mayweather. But let's wait for May 2nd.
Isn't this too late? We've been waiting for this for 5 years, since 2010. I mean, isn't this too late? I mean, can it still live up to the hype?
It has lived up to the hype. Tickets were sold out in less than 60 seconds.
I mean, the actual fight, can it live up to the hype leading to the fight?
I think with the training that they've put in, I think it will live up to the hype. Manny Pacquiao is a very different type of fighter from all Floyd has ever faced. Floyd has only faced 5 fighters who with that style of Manny Pacquiao, being the southpaws, that they lead with their left hand. Their knockout punch is with their right hand. Those are the southpaws, and they were not at the level at which Manny Pacquiao is at. The likes of Justin Juco, they were not at this level. And they were aggressive fighters, you know.
But Sugar Ray Leonard is saying Mayweather's going to win this fairly easy. Vander Holyfield is saying Mayweather's going to win fairly easy. Oscar de la Hoya is saying Pacquiao might win this.
Everyone is undoubted. Evander he has been in between when it comes to these two fighters. It's hard. These are two very different. Pacquiao's style is so Floyd Mayweather controls his fights. He controls the pace of his fights.
Wait until you get tired.
Yes, and which is a very boring style. But if Floyd comes out to open up, you know, we know his hands are very fragile. He doesn't have very hard hands, and it's very genetic from his father, from his uncle. When you look at their history, they always had problems with their hands. Manny Pacquiao is a wolf.
You know what?
In the ring.
Let's just have a debate 2 days, 3 days before on Thursday's show. How about that?
Thursday's show.
All right. Thank you, Arnold.
Thank you, Regis.
You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda, and I feel like boxing too now. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's take a look now at news making headlines here in Rwanda and around the world. The Ministry of Disaster Management and Refugee Affairs has reported that the number of refugees crossing into Rwanda has increased to over 20,000. Riots rocked the country, leaving 3 people dead as police shot live ammunition in the air to disperse protesters. Officials say they had registered over 17,000 over the weekend, while at least 3,000 new arrivals were reported in Bugesera district, but the counting was still underway. Many Rwandans are said to have approached the Rwandan embassy in Burundi, seeking papers to facilitate their return home following the unrest in the country. Canadian retired Lieutenant Colonel Romeo Dallaire delivered a lecture on peacekeeping at the Rwanda Peace Academy in Musanze district. Dallaire was credited for making several attempts to have the UN mission which led Commission to stop the genocide in 1994. He urged students to remember their responsibility of going in and protecting civilians when major conflicts are taking place. In his closing, Dallaire said, quote, "The world needs to be reminded of the genocide against the Tutsi and never let the memory die." He is expected to also visit Burundi later this week. In regional news, Sudan's President Omar el-Bashir has been re-elected with 94% of the vote. The country's main opposition parties boycotted the elections and saw a turnout of about 30 to 35%. Bashir, who faces war crimes charges, was declared the winner by Election Commission, extending his 25-year rule. The African Union monitors said that basic freedoms and human rights will have enhanced the polls. Bashir, who took power after a coup in 1989, is the only sitting head of state facing genocide charges at the International Criminal Court. And in international news, the death toll from the massive earthquake which hit Nepal on Saturday is said to have risen above 3,000. According to the National Emergency Operations Center, more than 6,100 people have been injured. Dozens of people are also reported to have been killed in neighboring China and India. More than 200 climbers were rescued around Mount Everest, which was struck by deadly snow slides in the 7.8 magnitude quake. Officials say the number of casualties could rise as the rescue teams reach remote mountainous areas of western Nepal. All right, Lifestyle is up next, plus a look at what's hot right now in our daily debate section, Hot Topics. We'll be right back.
Connect to Lusaka 3 times a week starting 27th March. Enjoy comfort and safety at affordable fares to 17 other destinations across Africa and the Middle East.
Fly our dream to the heart of Africa.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Lifestyle now, Makeda is not here, so I'll cover for her. Now, we've covered Miss Rwanda here on the show, and we've covered girls in ICT. What do you get when you mix those two together? An event that takes the competitive aspect of the former and the premise of the latter. Sounds cool, right? The event took place over the weekend and crowned one lucky winner as this year's Miss Geek. Take a look.
It was an evening full of inspiring speakers, great ideas, and smart and courageous girls.
Worldwide, only about 20% of women workforce in ICT, compared to about much more in the other sectors. So what I want today to discuss with you are how can this challenge be actually solved, or how can we attempt to solve those challenges in our own context here.
Miss Geek Rwanda 2015 was the second edition of an amazing initiative by the Girls in ICT organization, and it went off without a hitch.
Today's event is our way of celebrating the International Girls in ICT Day and also trying to inspire more girls to join technology. So we received about 120 applications from all over the country, from as far as Ngoma in the east and Gisenyi, and then we went through a selection process where we have, the girls in ICT members get to choose the best projects, the best 5 projects, and then from the best 5 we take them through 1 month training, which they've been going through with Educate, to prepare them for this day. But the problem statement was about education, and it had specific parameters. Innovation is what we're looking for. We're looking at cheap technology, but technology that can actually do something. And we're also looking at original ideas, and
Miss Geek gives girls the opportunities to showcase their ideas rather than looks or charm, and we saw some really good ideas.
Resources, opportunities, and university counseling.
Using SMS by calling, the students are going to learn more.
Making students more aware of what they can do for themselves instead of relying on what teachers can do for them.
Of the top 5 finalists as determined by votes and a panel of judges, the top 3, the second runner-up, the first runner-up, and of course the winner, won cash and prizes.
Miss Geek Rwanda 2015 goes to Rwanda Online Open School.
The winning idea belonged to Vanessa Mutezi, who was aptly crowned Miss Geek 2015 for her Rwanda Online Open School idea.
So basically the idea is for students around Rwanda to be able to access like textbooks and other materials that have been downloaded on a server and be able to access it on a tablet, phone, and other devices. I was talking to some of my friends, and we also went to other schools to find out what privileges they have within that school, and I saw what was lacking and what was needed, so that's why I basically built my idea around. The biggest thing for me is don't be scared of what other people think of you, or don't be scared that your idea is not good enough, because there's no such thing as a stupid idea. That's what I believe. So push through.
Well, we're definitely looking forward to seeing this young girl in ICT flourish. Makeda Mahario, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
And joining us in studio now is Vanessa Mutesi, winner of Miss Geek 2015. Hello, Vanessa. Good morning.
Hi. Good morning.
I see you hanging out with ministers and the likes. All right. So tell us, 120 applications. You came out on top. I mean, how does it work? What's the process like?
Well, first things first, you have to have an idea. And of course, there's a set problem statement that was written by Crystal Izuba, who's from Carnegie Mellon. And you basically write and building your concept on that whole question. And you turn it in and you just hope for the best.
Okay, and when you mean turn it in, what do you do exactly?
So first of all, of course, I had to write my application, which was a more broken down way of how my program would work, and then I handed it in online. So you just email it to the girls in ICT, and they say they'll get back to you. So
the girls in ICT are the ones who ultimately have a say on who wins and not. But then at the ceremony there, do you have to actually say what the product is all about? Like, how do you go about it?
Well, they give you a 5-minute time frame, and basically you have to do your best to explain your project in full detail, but stay within that time frame in order for the judges to have Q&A with you on where they don't understand anything.
Now, last week I did a story on girls in ICT. We actually had Lucy Mbabazi on the show, and we were talking about how women were still lagging behind, girls were lagging behind when it came to ICT, and then when you went to labs, there were more boys than girls. What do you attribute that to? And since you're a shining example, what can they do to become like you?
I think it's because for so long girls have been told that they're not in that field, that they don't fit in, and so they've also built that mindset into girls that they've also become so close-minded that they think they can't go far. But for me, it was just the encouragement that I had within my family, you know, to pursue what I loved, because ever since I was a baby, I basically knew how to use any and every device. So it was always something that intrigued me, and I didn't really care about what boys thought or cared about me. So I just pushed through and did what I felt like was right for me.
Now, this was the second edition of Miss Geek. You won the second one. Where do you go from here? I mean, what do you want to accomplish?
I think even when I did my application, I made like a table of how I want to do everything. And for me, the first thing would be touring the country to see the schools that have the most need, because there's some schools that have the one laptop per child and there's some others that don't. So I think the first thing for me would be to raise funds in order for them to have a sustainable computer lab and such things. And then probably in the future, I'd also start building my application.
Now, some of us were not lucky to hang out with the ministers and the likes. We were not as fortunate as Makeda. Tell us about your program. For those at home that were not at Serena, tell them what it's about and why you actually got to win.
Okay, so my program is called Rwanda Online Open School. And basically what it focuses on is having textbooks and the school curriculum and all the syllabuses on a server so that students can access it offline, because there's, of course, a limited use of internet in Rwanda. And this all came from the fact that I went to some public schools around Kigali and amongst other schools in the rural villages, and I saw that they had like 5 kids per textbook, and that can really hinder you in your studies, because what if I need to look up something and someone else is using the book? I want to be able to give them an opportunity not to have to share a book, to constantly have material they can look back on. And then again, also for the students who are lagging back, because you find a 17-year-old still stuck in their first year of secondary, meaning that they'll probably graduate at the age of 22. So I want to give them like a set place on the application whereby they can look at what they're supposed to be learning and help themselves catch up, even though they're still in a lower grade.
Now, you're accomplishing this. I want to be you at some point. I want to give all the knowledge that you have. But now that you've done this, I mean, what do you feel like? Because, you know, you can think sky's the limit. You're still very young. But what do you think is the place of ICT in Rwanda? How can the youth embrace it?
I think most of the time they think that the youth will just use it for social media and whatnot. But I want to show, especially the adults and even the young ones, that it's not about social media. It's not about always being social using technology. There's so many things you can do with it, and I want to show that there's great potential in the people of Rwanda. And I've met even girls who don't have the opportunity to have a very good education, and I want to give them that opportunity using my application so that they themselves can see the potential in them, and also help the use of technology grow in Rwanda, because there's so many people who don't even know how to use a smartphone, let alone a computer. So I also want to increase the rate of people using technology.
Now, growing up, I'll speak for myself. Growing up, being a geek wasn't necessarily a term of endearment. It is now. I mean, what's the definition of a geek?
People have the wrong definition of geek. If you go to the dictionary, there are many definitions, but geek is actually someone who has more knowledge on a certain field, and for me it's IT. So geek is not a very unpopular, unsocial person, because if you meet me on on a daily basis at school, I'm more of like a very social, loud person. So yeah.
What would you say are still the hurdles for those that actually want to use ICT, not only to communicate, but like you said, to further their careers or have careers if they did not have any?
I think knowing the proper use, because if you just think a computer is writing documents and you're done, there's so many things that you can do with a certain device. So it's all about how you think you can use it, and it's all about like the use you know that you can have it for, not just having it for one particular reason. Because even I got all these prizes and I'm like, what am I going to do with them? But then again, there's so much I could achieve with just even a phone.
I can say I sat next to a superstar. Doing pretty good for yourself. Vanessa Mutesi, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. We'll be right back after the break. Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda, and it's that hot topics time again. As always, the Rise and Shine Rwanda team have been out and about, gathering everything you need to know about what's happening here and abroad, from what's trending on Twitter to the debates in your local cafe. We've got it for you right here, right now. All right, guys, so there's this new survey that came out. And, the survey says that, it's really according to this survey. We're not going to say that any of us knew this. Surprisingly, Rwanda is ranked among the least happy countries in the world. The least happy places to live in. And we're, sided with countries like Togo, Burundi, Syria, and Benin. And then Switzerland is ranked as the happiest place in the world. Now, I have two questions for you guys. Number one, do you give any credibility to these reports, these surveys whatsoever? And number two, do you feel like we live in an unhappy country?
It depends on
on who's doing the survey.
who's doing the survey,
Yeah.
and who's financing the survey. Like, have they been to Rwanda? Like, how unhappy are the people? How unhappy do the people look? I don't know what to base the, there's some things are better. How do you say Rwanda is among the least happy countries to live in? When you put it in the likes in the category with the likes of Somalia and Syria.
Well, my voice in my ear is telling me that it's based on health, life expectancy, and the likes.
I mean, that's Switzerland. I understand that for it being one of the happiest, yeah, that I understand. But with Rwanda being in the headlines lately for so many good things, health. I mean, let's talk about it. Even in the region, Rwanda is like top notch.
GDP
and
too,
malaria, it's crazy. Rwanda is doing so well. Business.
Facts. Let's lay down the facts. Rwanda's life expectancy at the moment is 65 years old. Yeah, that's higher than Kenya. That's higher than Uganda. That's higher than Libya, Egypt,
all this
South Africa. Yeah?
GDP?
GDP, South Africa has a higher GDP because our GDP is 14 times less than what South Africa has. But when you look at the economic growth of Rwanda, Rwanda is growing at a higher rate than
any country.
Yeah.
In Africa, because for the past decade, our GDP, our economic rate has been growing at about 10.8%. Yeah? That's higher than any country in sub-Saharan Africa. So if they're to base it on health and economic growth and GDP, then
when I first saw this, I saw it on social media. My first reaction was, if Arnold says this, he's gonna go crazy. And my second reaction was, have these people been to Rwanda and then visit other parts of Africa?
No, they haven't. I just think that they sat and they figured, East African countries, which ones have we heard that have gone through a situation like they know Rwanda's gone through?
21 years ago.
No, they don't expect development.
Exactly.
Right.
So it's one of those reports that are made based on assumptions. And
right.
I had,
Yeah.
All right, so let's move on to the second topic. This one is a very inspirational one. It's about a 10-year-old girl. She's a poet from the slums of Nairobi, Kenya. And, she's taken over New York City with a tearful performance. Now, her name is Eunice Akot. And she, the performance has everyone talking. Now, it's, you know, she was performing at the Women in the World Summit, and, you know, most kids from the outskirts of Nairobi, the slums of Nairobi, which is called Kibera, it's the Africa's largest urban slum. Some of them are being raped, some of them are neglected by their parent, and many are homeless. So in her performance, she highlights these problems that they face, and now, you know, and she says we still have hope. It has not kept them from, you know, hoping, dreaming for greater things to come. And, you know, she's reached this level by the help of Kennedy Odede, who's a visionary with an organization helping these children to get education, the education, healthcare, you know, water, social services, you name them. So how great is this story, especially coming from this region? We just talked about people, you know, I don't know, coming up with these rankings and these surveys, and I don't understand. When you hear this, I mean, she goes to New York City and takes over. What do you guys think about this?
I'm personally very proud.
Have you heard about her before?
Yeah, I have. And what like you say, these people make all these surveys. They should probably focus on stories like this and learn something, you know. And it's really amazing what she's doing. And I think most importantly, she's a great example for people to look up to. I mean, if you come from the slums to get to a place like New York City and you're doing poetry for all these people, it's a big deal. There are very many adults who've done poetry all their lives that have not gotten this opportunity. So it's really amazing, and you know, we should just look up to her.
I love the message that, you know, despite the fact that some are raped, some are, you know, left forgotten and everything, they still find a way to dream and have hope.
Yeah, it's, you know, when you look at Kibera slum being the biggest sub-Saharan African slum, this is a slum that houses about 60% of Nairobi's population. And these are people who live on, you know, it covers only about 6% of the total land of Nairobi, and that's about 200,000 households. So you have about 4.3 million people living in 200,000 households. So her to come up and rise and have this voice, you know, she's an inspiration to a whole generation. I got a chance to watch her poem Arts Every Dream. You know, she talks about every seed having, every big tree having been a seed, and it's really inspiring. And the foundation that was started by the Odedes, that's Kevin Odede and the wife, Kevin Odede himself has his own story to tell, which is very inspiring, coming from the slums to be able to pay his own tuition in a college in the United States.
Very inspirational.
Very inspirational. And I think she's an emblem of this new drive in Africa, the girl power, the girl child.
Girl
you know,
power.
Yeah, and
you're preaching to her choir here.
Yeah, and that's something I think even Rwanda has laid on a lot. And you feel this should. She puts out that message that even in the worst of times, we as children, you know, we still dream, we still hope for a better country and a better nation. And you know, it doesn't matter how old you are, Regis, you can still dream.
You can still go to New York.
You can still go to New York City and be the talk of the town.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, don't forget, we love to hear your thoughts, comments, and feedback on what we're talking about here on Rise and Shine Rwanda. Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page where you can catch all the shows and the reports we do. Follow us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We'd love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website. Well, unfortunately, that's all the time we have for today, but we'd love to hear what you think of the show, so let us know via social media. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja, on behalf of me, Makeda, and this beautiful team here. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.